our work beyond heat maps, a comparative analysis of metrics for anomaly localization in medical images. Usually in anomaly localization you get an abnormal input for which you have a ground truth segmentation, binary segmentation for each pixel. However, due to historical reasons, most anomaly detection tasks returned a prediction heat map highlighting or hopefully highlighting the abnormality. So how can we align those? One reason or one method could be object detection. Basically turn the heat map or the ground truth into objects and then use object detection metrics. Another method would be to binarize the heat map and then calculate classical segmentation metrics between the ground truth segmentation and the binary segmentation. Lastly, you could also use the object heat map and use metrics for that. So this gives different problem definitions and different metrics. Classically, a segmentation metrics for which we binarize the segmentation, then we can calculate basically the overlap, for example dice or IEU. Also quite related, out of distribution detection metrics can also often use. For this, often the segmentation is basically ranked by the score, then compared to the ground truth, and this can give you the receiver operator curve or the precision recall curve, which can calculate the area and use then the error log or the average precision, which is basically an approximation for the area under the precision recall curve. Next, you can also use object detection metrics, and here again, first kind of binarize predictions and convert them into segmentations and objects, and then use them and calculate the metrics on an object basis. And then, for example, you can calculate the per object IU or center point distance, which calculates the center point between the ground truth or the object, or you could even use a heat map or center of mass for that. And lastly, here we use a soft version of the IU to incorporate the heat map inspired by the soft dice and try to use that as normal detection metrics, where for one image, basically for each object, calculate the soft IU between the correct object and the prediction, ignoring all the other objects. You do that for all objects, and lastly for the background, which should be 0 everywhere. Basically, to validate the methods or the metrics, can do that on different levels. For example, dataset level, which throws all pixels or voxels in one bin, then calculates the metrics for the whole set. This has the advantage since, for example, the dice is not defined, there's no prediction and ground truth, so these kinds usually have to be ignored there. You can also do that on a sample level, where for each sample you calculate a metric and then aggregate the metric to get the score of the dataset. You can go one step further, probably due to work historical reasons, and do that on a slice level, as often scans were processed in a 2D slice level manner. And lastly, especially for the object detection metrics, you can do that on an object detection level, and for each object calculate a metric and then aggregate them for the final score. To see how well these work, basically did pilot experiments with very simple use cases. For example, we can see what happens as the size of the ground truth and prediction varies. If we have an under-segmentation or an over-segmentation, we can see that most scans perform worse, and for perfect segmentation are perfect. However, there are some metrics which are ignorant to either over-segmentation or under-segmentation. Similarly, we looked at what happens if we have false detections. And as most methods decrease, if there are false detection, some are ignorant to that. In analogy, we also added missed instances. And again, while some decrease as the missed instances increase, some methods are kind of ignorant. We also look what happens if the size of the object changes, and basically we have now the constant volume of the segmentation stays the same, but therefore we have new segmentations, so 3 objects with the same size as 1 object. And while some stay constant and some increase as we have perhaps more object detected, some even decrease for that slightly. And lastly, look what happens if we have empty instances, which nothing was detected and nothing should have been detected, which should basically increase. And while some increase, most stay constant and some even decrease. We also looked what happens on real world data sets. and as a reference we use the numerator. And here, while we have some agreement, this changes as we vary the dataset, for example here the mood brain dataset or the mood abdominal dataset, and there's not really one method which is the best for all. So overall, first of all, it's even for human quite difficult to say which is right, as you can only look as instances, and for complete 3D scan and a heat map it's really hard to say what is right and what is wrong, especially for false positives or regions that light up slightly. Furthermore, the choice of anomaly localization metric should align with your task and goal in mind. So for example, if you want to focus on false positives, you should use some different metrics compared to if you want to optimize for false negatives. And one personal recommendation we found is that SoftInstanceIoU and F1-based metrics mostly perform well in most tasks. However, further research should explore the evaluation and use of multiple metrics in different anomaly detection settings. Thanks for your attention.